with Renee.
Yo. We wait all week and all day for more. Saturdays with Renee.
What's up, world? Welcome back. Episode 47, Saturdays with Renee Johnston. I'm Jared Ball. Greetings. Welcome to the remixes. Renee, how you feeling?
Look, you know my new answer. I am as good as capitalism allows, man. That's it.
That's it. That's all we can ask for. Pending revolution. That's all we get.
That's it. Ooh, let me tell you. One of these days when life is not crazy and I can like be on camera again, you have to watch me dance into the intro. Of course, by then you're gonna change it because this is what you do.
No. If anything, I would like to. There's a couple tweaks I'd like to make, a couple updates. But in terms of I'm yeah. No. You could get your dance together. It'll still be ready for you. It'll still be ready for you. Folks coming in, please do, as we welcome you and you feel welcomed, please do like, share, subscribe, support our Patreon. The link is in the show description. Whatever you can do materially is, of course, welcomed and helps us recapture and recoup the what we've lost with the demonetization of the channel, and then helps people somewhat try to compensate a little bit of the hard work that you see produced here on a daily basis. And then also the goal is to expand and develop some other projects. So please do, if you can, support. Otherwise, immaterially, we do happily accept likes, shares, subscriptions, and comments. So please continue that as well. A lot to get to today before Warrior class at 1 o'clock. And then I'm off to join Curb Fest and Black Alliance for Peace Baltimore and Dr. Orasami Burton for a discussion of Tip of the Spear and Black August as we wrap up Black August. So shout out to all of them and stay tuned. You'll see some more of that around here. But and please do as well subscribe to the channels in the show description, including, I think we need to build up Renee's also, but in any event.
Can I tell you, I went in there and I was like, I literally use this to house videos and that's it. And I looked and I was like, where'd all these people come from?
Where'd all these people come from?
It's like, where'd all these people come from?
Exactly.
Ooh, listen.
All right. So again, a lot to get to. How would you like to proceed?
So if we could, and I will ask Talib and Chino to bear with us just for another minute and a half or so. We don't have to play the whole thing, but on the line for a few words on Black August. This show was intentionally this way because it is the last day of August. And I was like, we can squeeze one more in. And so I played this at the start of our Black August convening that we did on Wednesday. And I have to thank sincerely Johanna Fernandez, who came and she spoke at the end, which was awesome. And this was a little, I'm going to call it a gift because I will hold it near my heart for the rest of my life. And you will know why when he starts speaking. But it's a little long. It's like 5.5 minutes. And we have so much to get to. We can't listen to the whole thing, but we can listen to the first like maybe minute and a half or so. And this is Mumia Abu-Jamal.
Would you rather play more on a higher speed? We could try that also.
Yeah, we could try that. And then we can listen to it for a little bit and then
And I'll put the
then
link in the show description. So,
right, and then we can bring the guests on, and folks can go listen to the whole thing. It was, as anybody would expect, it was brilliantly done.
Mahanoy. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Okay.
Ready when you are.
Yes, ready.
Hello, Renee. This is Mumia Abu-Jamal talking to you from the joint, SCI Mahanoy. And the issue at hand here is Black August, isn't it? When we think about Black August, we think about a plethora of acts of rebellion, of Black resistance, not just to white supremacy, but to white colonialism, white slavery, and white oppression. One of the biggest memories in my mind when I think of Black August is August 8th, 1978, the city, Philadelphia, where the MOVE organization had its first big major confrontation with the state. And I say the state because it was the city and the Fed conspiring to attack and destroy the MOVE organization in Philadelphia, an event that failed. But what it did do is it locked up the MOVE 9.
Jared, folks in the chat are saying they can't hear it.
Why are they saying that though?
I don't know. I could hear it.
Yeah, I can hear it too. So I don't know what the problem would be.
So we'll just send folks, just follow the link.
But how are they not hearing that?
I don't know.
And it's Black August, isn't it?
It's very low. I get that, but just turn up your volume.
Y'all remember he calls in.
White slavery and white oppression. One of the biggest memories in my mind when I think of Black August is August 8th, 1978, the city, Philadelphia, where the MOVE organization had its first big major confrontation with the state. And I say the state because it was the city and the Fed conspiring to attack and destroy the MOVE organization in Philadelphia, an event that failed. But what it did do is it locked up the MOVE 9, men and women, for the better part of a half century. And it created resistance that could
This is a call from Pennsylvania State Correctional Institution, Mahanoy. This call is subject to recording and monitoring.
Not just in Philadelphia, but around the world.
All right, you can stop it, Jared, because people are saying they can't even make it out.
Folks, you got to get your speakers together, get your headphones together. I heard it clearly. But anyway, the link is in the show description. And big shout out to you and Mumia and Johanna and all those gathered to get him out.
It was something. And for people to understand, I did not know this was coming, right? I got a note from Johanna that was like, from the voice, from the mouth, and I was like, what is she talking about? So I thought it was her. So it starts playing and I was like, wait a minute, is this Mumia? And did he just say hello, Renee? I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, what is happening? So what I will do is I will go back and see if I can raise the volume on the video end of it, and then I will repost it. So we'll get it together. We'll figure it out, and then I'll send you the link so folks can. It was just
the links in the show description, and I think people, with all due respect, I mean,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't. We'll see. We'll do what we can do. Right. So can we bring up our guests?
Sure. Absolutely. And is Shamira staying off camera or just not ready yet? I'll just give a second, but welcome everybody.
Welcome. So as everyone knows, I've been participating in these abolition workshops every month, and we did a talk last month on the school to prison pipeline, and Talib was gracious enough to join us and talk about his experience and his work now with Rutgers and what they're doing to try and bring education back into the Jersey prison system, and to try and basically like do all the things that we need to happen in order to ensure that revolution continues, that political education continues. And then when we let Talib know that we were doing, a Black August commemoration, and that, we were going to look for panelists, he introduced me to Chino. And Chino co-founded the Returning Citizens group that works out of Newark and is doing the real work to help people who are coming home to work with, to get back with their families, to try and get housing, to get food, to get clothes, to get those material conditions met. And after Wednesday, and we had such a great conversation. And after Wednesday, I got home and I was like, can I get them on Saturday? Is it too short notice? Can they do it? And, these brothers were all in and said absolutely. And I'm so grateful to have you both on, so that we can have this conversation on this last day of August to discuss the real work that's happening on the ground in New Jersey to try and help that, these folks who are both living within the system and trying to return back to life from the system. So thank you both for joining. I appreciate you. Talib, can we start with you? Can you give a little more information about your work and your program? And, your story is such an intense one. Maybe just a little bit about your experience and how you got here.
All right. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings to the people. So yeah, my name is Talib Chadiez. I'm a justice impacted scholar. Is how I identify now. I entered into the carceral system at the age of 15 and did not see society again until I was 41 years old. And essentially what helped me get to where I'm at now in the current role I am, and being an advocate and senior program coordinator at Rutgers University, Newark, for the New Jersey Scholarship and Transformative Education in Prison Initiative, is the emancipatory power of education. If we look back to those very early systems of oppression and enslaving our people, then we immediately see why it was that they removed and often killed our brothers and sisters who wanted to learn how to read, how to effectively communicate. And so the initiative we have that's been around for over 15 years now in some capacity of introducing higher education into a prison setting, it had a transformative element in our spaces, in which you would find individuals in the past just going through the monotonous routine that is imprisonment to engaging in revolutionary thought processes and having the language to effectively communicate their inner struggle, right? So just to shorten it up and be as brief as possible, I, to this very day, as recently as yesterday, had an emotional breakdown because prison, while the popular terminology we hear coming out of prison is you could lock up my body, but never my mind. I have, from my own personal experience, realized that the first thing that starts to get incarcerated is your mind. Prisons are designed to break us down. And so I'm being brutally honest that yesterday in my wife's presence, I had an emotional breakdown, full-fledged breakdown, tears flowing and all of that. And I came to understand why. And it's because prison harmed my development. Right? And so the work that I do every day, the work that Chino does every day, boots on the ground type of approach, is to help us peel back those layers, to help our brothers and sisters who are getting home. I'm coming from the educational perspective. Brother Chino, he'll speak to the multitude of avenues that he provides with the Returning Citizen Support Group. But essentially what we're trying to do is reclaim our humanity, because those damn places were designed and they're doing exactly what they were designed to do, and is to break down our people.
No, right on. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Wow.
Chino, do you want to share? And you can share as much or as little as works for you.
Sure. Thank you. And good morning, revolutionary greetings. Thank you for having me this morning. I think it's an imperative, that platforms like this allow, people like myself and Talib to be able to, share our narrative, share our stories, so that people know the truth, the reality of what the carceral system in America, how it destroys black and brown people, or at least tries to. My name is Chino. In 1986, I was arrested and convicted. I was sentenced to 30 years, came home September 22nd of 2016. September 22nd of this year, be 8 years that I've been home, and I am still adjusting to society. While I was incarcerated, I saw men come in and out of the prison system 2, 3, some even 5 times, and I would see him in the big yard, be like, "Yo, bro, like really? You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to get out of here, you keep coming back." You know what I mean? So I was like, "Why you keep coming back to prison?" And the food ain't that great. They treat your family like other than what they deserve to be treated like. And a lot of brothers would be like, "Man, it's hard out there." And I'd be like, "Man, it's not as hard as it is in here." Other brothers could not answer the question. So when I came home in September 22nd of 2016, that question was answered for me, right? Because I realized that society, further marginalize us, stigmatize us. There were policies in place that prevented us from really, achieving success and being successful upon re-entering society. So I started a returning citizen support group, and it started, simple. For 30 years that I was incarcerated, I had a strong support system for my family. They visited me. They brought me food packages. I could call home. They would never say no when I called. And when I came home, they were right there outside waiting for me. But there was something missing. And what was missing was that connection that I had with my brothers that were behind the wall. So I started reaching out to brothers that were home, that had been home 10, 15 years. My Iman Sharif, my brother Dawood Lambert, Checha, other brothers that served 30 plus years in prison. And I felt a connection with them that I didn't feel with my own family who were there for me for 30 years. So that's what gave birth to the Returning Citizen Support Group, because I wanted to create a space for those coming behind me to be able to feel welcome, not to feel judged, marginalized, but also to create a space where we can organize and mobilize and control our narrative, right? But too long, our communities have been we call them pimp profiteers. They profit from our suffering, and that we were the ones that were leading this movement as far as social justice and reentry, because don't nobody know or can tell the stories the way that we can. So, like you stated, Renee, we have several initiatives that we started. One of them was started by my brother, Tone Henshaw out of Camden, which is Meet 'em at the Gate. So what we do is brothers reach out to us from behind the wall and they say, "Hey, we got brother coming home who did 40 years. He have no support system. He has no family." And so we meet the brother at the gate. Sometimes, we like 30, 40 deep, make sure the brother come home, that he feels welcome, that he understands that he's not alone, that he's not going to come out here into the world after 40 years and say, "Dad, what am I going to do next?" So we support him. We also have a support group that we run every Thursday. It's a peer-to-peer support group at 32 Prince Street in Newark. It's open to the community because mass incarceration impacts the entire community, families, not just the people who are behind these prison walls. We also have a relationship support group that we run, and we have a doctor that attends our relationship support group, because one of the things that mass incarceration the impacts is destruction of the relationship between families. Like Talib alluded, like the psychological trauma that we suffer in prison impacts our relationships, whether it's with our children, with our significant others, with our brothers, with our community. So we focus on, addressing that trauma, right? And just, it's like an onion, peeling layers and layers and layers of trauma that was caused by mass incarceration. We're currently using different mediums. We have different relationships with different partners in the community. So one of the mediums that we utilize is art, whether it's drama, painting, poetry, because a lot of people don't want to talk about that trauma. So we find different means for people to express it and deal with it so they can be successful and move forward with their lives.
Thank you both. The work that you're doing is, I can't even explain it. And it's hard for people to get like on a screen, but I've been in the room with both of these brothers, and I can't even, you know, when people's spirits like exude from them, like the care and love that you all have for your community and the work that you were putting in to try and do all that you can to save people as they come out. And while they're still in, right? Because we talked about prison being war, and Ori's book, and all these things, and I just, people can't get it from the screen, but I can't thank you all. I can't thank you enough for all that you're doing. So, you know, I like the way, Talib, you put it, that you know, you're working from opposite ends, but trying to do the same thing. So can you talk a little bit about the importance of political education and the work that you're doing, going back in and trying to help people who are still living within this system to find a way beyond what the system is really set up to allow?
Yeah, for sure. So, Chino, interesting enough, we was just having this conversation the other day with the idea of unionization, particularly because when you're in prison, particularly in New Jersey, you're earning about $1.30 a day. $1.30 a day to do manual labor, and you can't refuse, because the 13th Amendment essentially says we own your body. You committed a crime, we own your body. So just to give full context for the folks who've never been incarcerated before, and may God protect you from that atrocity. Once you are stripped down and bare naked, you're essentially like put on the block, like an auction block, to the highest bidder, and is the Department of Corrections. And they will use your body to its full capacity to keep that machine moving, right? And so when you're a 16, 17, 18-year-old rebellious kid who comes from a society that was already disenfranchised, disinvested in, with the school to prison pipeline, the poverty to prison pipeline, the sex trafficking, violence against women pipeline, all of those pipelines that are constructed by the system that is to get people, our people, into those spaces, what you end up finding is that now you have to work and you don't have no damn choice. And you're going to make about $1.30 a day. And then there's even a competitive force there where they give certain positions to incarcerated people of being like a paraprofessional. So that person can make anywhere between $3 up to, I've seen some people make $10 a day. So it creates a social hierarchy within the prison itself that creates a culture where a prisoner may even start to oversee other prisoners, right? So that's the rich, deep construct that exists with regards to the legacy that was the enslavement of Black and brown bodies. That stuff is still freaking alive here in the United States. It's $1 billion industry for a reason. But education, however, and I was one of the first people, one of the first cohorts in Southwood State Prison who started having higher education introduced into the prison system. And we would come out, just to paint a very powerful picture, we would come out and stand in lines to get patted down to enter into the classroom setting. And the predominant presence of whiteness would be there, whether it was a Black body or not. There was a presence of whiteness there. And they would slap the books out of our hands. Right? And they would rough us up. And they would say, what the hell y'all getting an education for where I got to pay for it? They weren't even able to capture the power of the benefit of education. They saw it as though, back yet again on the plantation, you should not be reading a book. You cannot be informed. But we knew better. The brothers that were there for a long time trained us to not respond to whiteness in that way. Right? So, all right, that's cool. You're going to slap the book out of my hand. There's a bigger narrative at play here. I'm trying to improve myself. I'm trying to become educated. So we came across the new Jim Crow. And that was one of the books we studied, which then ended up getting banned. But we engaged with that. We engaged with locking up our own, which was the counter narrative coming from another Black voice saying that, Jim Crow exists, but it was Black and brown people who actually, helped the Rockefeller laws come into place, right? So we was engaging in that way in a prison setting, right? The destruction of civilization. We was reading books like that. We was like leaning in to the likes of Mumia, right? And recognizing the power of education, because now when you're in the ad seg, which is basically solitary confinement, there's a very loud noise, and it usually comes from a person banging on the window or on his door screaming, CO, CO, get me out of here. The CO would come and say, what the hell you want? You would say, motherfucker, get out my face, right? Nothing happens. But that same individual gets educated and starts to say, I'm having a psychological breakdown. That's the power of education. Right? So the way we trying to connect out here, the movement we're trying to create out here with the Return of Citizen Support Group, is taking those brothers and sisters who was on the inside, getting them onto a Rutgers campus. Some of them, we have over 130 bachelor graduates. We have over 25 master's degree graduates. We currently have 2 PhD students. We have an expanding network of justice impacted scholars who are coming with the type of lived experience that can shape the policy that can affect abolition. We don't want freaking reform. We want to abolish the system as it currently exists. Right? And what the Return to Citizen Support Group and the formerly incarcerated college graduates network, which is a national model of another formerly incarcerated brother of ours that's directing that initiative, what we're trying to do is essentially say, based statistically, 750,000 people are returned from prison annually. If we were to get 10% of those people as a voting bloc or just a union, you start to become a very powerful movement for change. And that's where we at right now. We really need the support to be able to get Returning Citizen Support Group as a union that's initiated.
You want to add anything, Chino?
Well, I mean, Brother Talib, really addressed, did a well job addressing, because, and I would just add, Renee, that, when we look at reentry, typically people look at reentry and they say, oh, okay, somebody comes home from the carceral space. We get them a job, we get them a little acclimated back into the system. We give them some SNAP, we give them some GA assistance, and they good. But the reality is that for us, the way we view, reentry is more holistic approach, right? Because, because of mass incarceration, right? We got the school to prison pipeline, we got the dismantling of families, right? So these are all issues that we address as a movement, right? We don't just say, hey, brother, you came home. Hey, sister, you came home. All right, we're going to get you a job. All right, that's it. You good. You know what I mean? No. So, we have wraparound services. We don't just assist the individuals that are coming home, our brothers and sisters that are coming home, but we also assist their families, right? So we got a brother came home and he's staying with his sister, hey, man, he feels like a burden. I said, nah, well, we'll help you pay your sister's light bill, right? We'll help with groceries, right? So that he feels that he's contributing or she feels like she's making a contribution. So, we try to take a more holistic approach, right? Because we understand, we lived it, we experienced it, we know the profound impact, right? The hidden consequences of mass incarceration, right? Mental health, right? Family reunification and disrupting the school to prison pipeline. So these are things, this is the approach that we take when we and emphasizing the importance of education, right? I don't have no college degrees, but when I was in prison, the old heads, they snatched me up and they say, oh, young brother, don't spend your time in that yard lifting weights and building your muscles. They say, here, read Uncle Yahya, here, read, Malcolm X, read Sun Tzu's Art of War, read these books. And unfortunately, a lot of these books were banned, but brothers had copies of them. And that's how I was able to elevate. Because in prison, we have scholars, you know what I mean? And those brothers, taught me, and not so much in an academic way, but, self-knowledge of self, which is the most important thing that they have, that I learned in prison.
Right on. Definitely appreciate the work that you both do. And is not necessarily the segue, but one of the things I know we were going to talk about this morning is this Daughters documentary on Netflix. And I'm very interested when we talk with the formerly incarcerated people doing that kind of work, what you all think in terms of the media depiction of that experience and what it conveys to those of us out here, what it doesn't convey. Because, sir, I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but when I watched this documentary, I mean, it almost suggests that, prisons aren't really a problem. Everybody who's in there is supposed to be in there. And here, when the sister says we wanted to create this daddy-daughter dance, the prison officials, she reports that they were happy to comply, like, oh, we're always happy to help people. And it was just conveying this wild, from my humble point of view, inaccurate impression of prison. So I'm just curious, in terms of the work you do now, the incarceration you've already suffered and experienced, when you see these kinds of documentaries or popular TV films, whatever, do you have any particular thoughts about what you see being conveyed versus the real life experience?
Yeah. So since you bring that, because that's the paradox that I struggle with in my current role as a program coordinator for Rutgers Newark, the NJ STEP program, initiative rather. So with the current Pell access to Pell Grant money, right, from the federal government, there's an expectation from the Vera Institute. They did research on it, found that there would potentially be a proliferation of higher education and prison initiatives in every state of the United States. We're expecting to have at least one college in prison program in all 50 states, including Alaska, right? Good old Sarah Palin town. And that immediately got me to the point of saying this is the paradox, right? Because this is the problem. Because now I also recognize that there's data that shows that there's low enrollment rates across the nation in traditional college tracks. So we're backfilling something, right? Because at the end of the day, it's capitalism 101, and these universities are about getting their bread. There's a reason why tuition in New Jersey is damn near $25,000 a year for undergraduate students. You get into the graduate programs, over $45,000 a year. So what I'm trying to get at is that they have effectively, the status quo, sensationalized and also at least proffered the idea that you legitimize prisons. So when I watched that documentary, that was my immediate impression, was that, damn it, they're legitimizing the existence of the very thing that brought those brothers into that place. They didn't get to the root causes, right? And then introducing these young babies into that space without a qualified clinical psychologist or other being available, right, to be able to help them process throughout the entire process, not just for a day. You're going to have to sit with these children now for weeks, months, years to follow up on how they have now been introduced to a carceral space. Like, they had to come in there, fall in love with daddy again, and then get ripped from his arms. And then if you notice, there was a scene in there where they shot the camera down at the shoes, the pants, and the belts of the men who were left inside the place where they danced. I immediately knew what happened there. They all got stripped down naked before they could go back to their cell. It's a requirement of every visit. You have to, when you go to a contact visit, you have to be stripped down naked. The cop is telling you to bend over, spread your cheeks, and cough. So how the hell was that a therapeutic component? It was therapeutic for a second and became traumatizing for the rest of that event. And now it's being re-traumatized because it's there to be consumed by the masses of the society that essentially say prisons are needed. And look at the amazing work that they're doing. Forgetting that one of those brothers went back for 30 years. Where's the support for that young lady now knowing her father's gone for 30 years? Where's the support for him knowing that he's going to be grappling with that forever? And may he even have to watch that episode from his prison cell? It's disgusting. That's my view on that. That shit is disgusting.
I definitely appreciate that. Chino, definitely please add if yeah.
Yeah, definitely, my brother. Unfortunately, right, when I grew up in the projects in Newark, right, like going to prison was normal, right? It wasn't abnormal. Like, and unfortunately, that's something that society perpetuates, right? In Black and brown communities, right? Like in white communities, it's normal to go to college, right? It's normal to become a law enforcement. It's normal to become a teacher. But in Black and brown communities, unfortunately, going to prison has been normalized, right? For generations, right? So we got, brothers, we got fathers, we got grandchildren, we got uncles, we got like whole families in our prison system because we have normalized that, right? And so when I see documentaries like that, that does not tell the whole truth of the mass incarceration, right? How it destroys, like a lot of the people that come to our support group are not people that were inside the prison system. A lot of them are the daughters, the sons, the grandmothers, the wives that have experienced, right, mass incarceration. Because, what that documentary didn't show was that sometimes the kids are told, can you take your jacket off? Can you take your shoes off? So although it's not a full strip, it's dehumanizing, right? The kid like, why gotta take my shoes off? Why gotta take my jacket off? Why is this correctional officer going through my little purse? You know what I mean? Like with my candy and stuff in there. So it's like, they don't tell these. And so that to me, it does a disservice to society. And that's why we do the work that we do, brother, right? Because we want people to know, no, this is what goes on in our criminal justice system, right? We want to call it a criminal justice system because really there is no justice in our criminal justice system. But yeah, when I see documentaries like that, when I see movies that portray prison life, it really boils my blood because I know that prison does not foster family reunification. In fact, it destroys families, right? My brother, Tariq Witcher, who's my co-founder, I remember his daughter coming into the visit and, his daughter hugging him and correctional officer coming there, hey, you hugging too much, we're going to terminate your visit, right? And then at the end, like they literally had to be separated, right? And that creates anxiety, that creates trauma for a child. So yeah, definitely. I mean, that documentary did a disservice to the truth of our criminal system.
No, thank you for that. I mean, they even show one of the brothers in there to not only to the point you made, Talib, about the 30 years, but they talked about one of them kept getting moved around. So they they just show it in the text at the end. They don't really talk about it, I should say. They show it at the little text at the end to let you know he's still in and getting moved all over the place and can't be kept up. But they leave it with you as if, again, this is all his fault. He had options. They spend, I think, a lot of time with the trauma of the children saying, criticizing their fathers, which is understandable, but this is what you choose to show in the documentary. Like a kid can't understand what's really going on. They just know their father's gone. And there was too much of that. My father keeps making these bad decisions. He keeps getting himself locked up. And it's like, hold up. I mean, why are we letting the child give us this sort of grand analysis of what's going on with prisons as opposed to what's really, so anyway, I just again, big shout out to the both of you. And yeah, thanks for that.
And there was a part of me that was like, I hope they don't watch this damn documentary because
it was rough for me. I mean, just seeing it when you see the babies crying, that part was breaking me up. I was just like, I was having a very hard time with that.
It was awful. And neither of you know Jared, but he has 2 daughters, right? So
right. Yeah, I just dropped one of them off at college and was falling apart, and never mind a whole being separated.
Right.
Like that was just bad. That was bad.
It was terrible. It was terrible. And the minute I saw the picture on the list of things to watch on Netflix, I was like, ooh, Jared about to be mad at me because we're gonna have to watch it.
I did have a moment where I was a little bit mad at
I mean, you yelled at me on your show yesterday.
Yeah, I yelled
like,
I'm mad every day. I was a little bit. Why is she making me go through all of it? No, but yeah, it was.
But
it's just terrible.
So just so you know, Chino and Dali, you understand. So part of what we do here is try to really break propaganda and to kind of peel back that bubble of what media and Netflix and movies and all these things try to represent. We talked about this a lot on Wednesday. You know, this overarching lie about what the carceral state does, like what its purpose is, how how people live and move within it. And I just, it's so important that you be the voice for this, right? Like I cannot be the voice for what that system truly does, right? And so I appreciate that you all traumatized yourselves watching that documentary. I will not lie, there was a little piece of me that was like, we can talk about it without them watching it. but
Shamira has a comment. Should we read
Sure.
this?
Sure.
I don't know if she meant. I don't know if Shamira, if you meant it to be read publicly. I don't want to. But it seems pretty insightful here. Okay. She says, for some girls, this documentary was helpful. Unfortunately, in our Black and Brown communities, there are many single parent households leaving many children fatherless and motherless. There were beautiful moments in the documentary that these girls will never forget. One visit can change someone's life. Many girls will be reminded of what type of companion they should or should not be involved with. Most importantly, to have a day with their fathers made a difference and was everything to them. Fair enough. Thank you for sharing that. So I appreciate that for sure.
So I mean, are we good on the documentary? Can we? So I know we're only gonna hold you all until noon. So can you both talk a little bit, and you two can decide who goes first, talk about how as a channel and as a community and as people we can support your projects, what you're working on now, what things we can do, just anything honestly, in order to give you some support from our larger community of people. You know whatever you want to share. I just want to make, I'm doing it now because I want to make sure we get that in and we don't rush it in at the end before you all have to get off.
Go ahead, Chino. You can begin.
Yes, Renee, yeah, definitely. Thank you for this opportunity. Again, yeah, the Returning Citizen Support Group is a grassroots organization based out of Essex County in Newark, where our office is at 32 Prince Street in Newark. We're there Monday through Friday. We can, one of the, and I was doing a proposal this morning before I joined on closing the digital and gap between returning citizens, especially the aging population, right? Like brothers come home, they don't even know how to answer a phone, right? So, but one of the things that we need help with as a grassroots organization is technology, right? We need people who know how to who are willing to volunteer and help us with our social media, our website, just to grow as an organization, right? We are understaffed because the powers to be don't fund organizations like ours, right? We have to fight tooth and nail to get breadcrumbs in order to do the work that we do. So most of the work that we do is voluntarily, is through our passion that we have for our community, not just for the brothers and sisters that are coming home, but the community at large that we're part of, right? We really are changing the narrative. But if anyone that has skills that can help and volunteer and help us upscale our organization, we need grant writers, we need people that can help us develop programs, and things of that nature. So because just a quick example, right? Last Saturday, I got a call because we work with men and women. We have a relationship with the Department of Corrections. So we get phone calls from social services say, hey, we got a guy that's coming home. So we had a guy come home last Saturday on the weekend. We don't get paid. We Monday through Friday, but we work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, because we understand the importance, right? So I pick a brother up from Rahway State Prison, which is now East Jersey State Prison, took him to an Airbnb, and then dropped him off. Came and picked him up on Monday and took him to social services for services. And unfortunately, he was not able to secure housing. That's one of our biggest impediment. But but we definitely need help, Renee. Anyone that has any time to volunteer to help us with our social media, building our websites, and just with computer literacy.
So I put
real quick, Talib, before you start, Chino, you just found somebody, because that's literally my side job. Like, no lie, I just built the Black Liberation Media website.
Okay.
So
well, let's connect. Let's connect.
We gonna work this out. I
put the link to that website and to Talib's Authentic Voices Global website and documentary, which you can talk more about. They're both in the show description. And just putting it out there, we've had a number of discussions of this around this topic. I think we should, as a platform, talk about doing some sort of telethon where we raise money for a variety of these groups that come through here and that we work with, and just have like a whole massive sort of fundraising telethon type of thing, and see if we can help folks.
Let's do it
at some point. So yeah, but the links to support for those who see this are in the show description. And sorry, Talib, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So the documentary that I started working on, it literally began the minute I was released. I was taking video journals of my own experience, just being able to capture my thought processes. I was a psych major, so I wanted to see who I was when I was released, and then be able to then review that footage to be able to get a sense of where I want to be. And I immediately discovered that I was having a very significant shift in my brain with regards to how I was interacting with the world. And so, the first 3 days home, I didn't sleep but maybe 2-3 hours. It was just a sensory overload, emotional overload. Like, everybody around me was happy and joyful, and I felt like I was just a spectator in my own body. And I still deal with that on a daily basis. Sometimes I'm just in an event and I'm not there. I'm in my prison cell. The breakdown I had last night, I was explaining to my wife that I wanted to be alone. I wanted to be alone. I didn't want to be around anybody. And I explained to her that I felt, unfortunately, because of where I was for so long, most comfortable when I was in my prison cell. Like, when I was outside of my prison cell, I was engaging with a potential threat of, first and foremost, a correctional officer trying to unalive me, or one of my brothers who is going through something psychologically, who may get in an argument with me, and then we end up harming each other, because that's the space. But then when I would go into my prison cell, I was able to put my shield away. I was able to put my sword away, and I was able to just decompress. But out here in the world, I couldn't find that. So the Redemption Scholars documentary is about following the lives of 3 formerly incarcerated people who met in a halfway house while going to college with each other, and exploring this thing that is, number one, redemption. And it's broadly defined in this context of redeeming our freedom, redeeming our minds, redeeming our spirit, redeeming the harm that we committed to an individual or society. A lot of us walk around with that. I personally walk around with the idea of there being an empty chair in somebody's home because of an act that I committed as a kid, right? And me making a commitment to never harming not even an insect in my life moving forward. That's what I bear. The scholastic component of the documentary is being able to lend voice to my brothers and sisters who have a limited vocabulary because the K-12 system didn't give a damn about them, about their culture, about their people. There's more to our culture than posters of Dr. King and Malcolm X in a classroom. Like there's a deep culture that is lacking in our current K through 12 systems. Like that's where I wholeheartedly believe and where my research is at, where it all begins. When we get to Brown versus Board of Education, and there's this idea we're going to integrate. Yeah, you integrated students into a space where nobody wanted them to be, and you excommunicated the brilliant scholars of Blackness. All of the Black scholars lost their jobs overnight. They didn't integrate Black educators into those spaces. They integrated our children into those spaces. And we've been dealing with that adversarial conversation since affirmative action goes away and all of that because of these things, right? So the Redemption Scholars explores all of that from like a psychological perspective, an educational perspective, and even doing deep dives into like root causes. Like me, literally myself, I shared, and I share now as part of my truth, where I was a young boy and I was harmed in a closet by another little boy, and how that impacted the trajectory of my life, right? So these are the type of narratives that need to be said, because many of the men who are in prison right now, there was a Penn State study that found that over 75% of people incarcerated have some undiagnosed psychological trauma they're dealing with. Of the adverse childhood experiences that the CDC recognizes as being either A, more likely to have high blood pressure, diabetes, and even a track to prison, of those 10 adverse childhood experiences, for those of you who are interested, the research is called ACEs, you will find that many people in our community have like 3, 4, 5, and some 6. I myself had like 7 of those adverse childhood experiences. And so we explore that in the documentary as well. So the link is authenticvoicesglobal.com. It is every tax donation is tax deductible. For those who understand that stuff, I'm still learning that myself. But the truth of the matter is what we in Chino talk about, and everybody at the Returning Citizen Support Group talks about, is controlling the narrative. The narrative has always been, the predominant narrative has been, is that Willie Horton is on his way home and he's going to rape a white woman. Right? Like that's where it gets. Right? That's the narrative. We are the boogeymen. They go to prison, they so-called serve their time, but be careful. Because 25 years later, them animals are going to come back out and they're going to kill people. But if you look at the statistics, that's not the case. If you look at our group, the Returning Citizen Support Group, if you want to get into recidivism, what I'm not a big fan of, but for those who are, we don't go back to prison because we have control of our narrative and we have a support group that's different from the society that has excommunicated us.
Well, there we have it, people. This is why these brothers are on. This was why I needed this to be about your voice and about what you're doing and about how we can support your work. I do want to bring up very quickly, because she said I could. Chino, apparently Ali in Newark. His cousin's in the chat, and so she's very excited that her cousin already knows you. And my bad. No, you're good. I had invited her to reach out to me direct so that I could try and connect you so that her cousin could connect you. But apparently you're already connected. So see, I don't have to make the extra step.
Small world
Indeed. But I can't express it enough. I've been so and I don't really have a better way to say it. You both have kind of changed the way I feel on the inside of me about how I'm going to move forward, right? With participating in these spaces. And please come back whenever you want. We are here every Saturday, and we have to start doing Patreon stuff too. So maybe we could do like a little special thing where we talk a little bit more maybe about the documentary. We figure it out. We'll figure it out. But you both are welcome. If there's anything that we can do to support, if there's an event or something coming up that you need to have shared with a larger audience, please do send it to me, and I will be happy to promote it in any way that I can. Chino, I will be in touch about how I can help with your website, because I can do that 100%. And Talib, I'm like overflowing right now because I'm so grateful that you both made the time. And, you know, Talib, I know you've had a rough 24 hours, and I thank you for pushing through and joining this morning. And, you know, if there's anything that I could do, you have my number. So please don't hesitate. Let me know if there's something I can do to support. All right. Anything you
Absolutely.
both,
Yeah.
anything you both want to add before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Renee, and the brother for, you know, for creating this platform, so that our voices can be uplifted, that our community can be heard. You know, we have to continue to have these conversations so that we can educate, because if we don't educate our people, you know, we are failing them. So thank you.
No, right on. Come back anytime. Appreciate you. Yeah, Talib, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say peace and blessings to everyone. Take some time to love each other. There's a lot of people out there that forget to take that time out to do that. My wife reminds me of that every day, so I'm trying to be more intentional with that. But give each other grace, love each other, avoid those toxic comments that end up on Instagram or that with the, you know, I think it's like the digital media muscles, like those fake accounts and all of that harms us, right? Get with the people that genuinely love and care about each other. Take some time out for that.
Right on. Shout out to that good wifely advice. Let go and let wife is my motto. Listen more to our wives. We do better. No, but big shout out to Shamira in the background, to the both of you for coming on, Renee for setting this up. And again, anytime this platform can be of some help, please let us know. It's been great building. So peace to you both, as Fred Hampton used to say, because we know you both willing to fight for it. And we'll catch you next time. And we'll see everybody back here in just a second with more Saturday with Renee. Renee.
Man, listen.
That was a lot.
It was, but it was necessary.
Shout out. Oh, no question.
It was necessary. And you know, sometimes like the world brings people into your space, right? And there's not really, you don't really know why that happens until you kind of start moving forward, right, with these people and really starting to understand. And I mean that when Talib came on to talk to us about the school to prison pipeline, I remember thinking to myself, like, oh, I got to make sure I don't lose track of this brother. I don't really know how I'm gonna manage holding on, but I'm gonna figure it out. And then we did Wednesdays, which I'm sorry to report did not record properly. So we had a big plan of like sharing the whole talk, and now we're not going to be able to. But it was, we really have to, as communities and as people and as a channel really that promotes ourselves as pushing for the liberation of our people. It's important that we include these voices, right? It's important that we bring it all in.
I mean, and it's important also because, you know, there's a number of increasingly popular YouTube channels that feature formerly incarcerated prisoners who talk about the experience. But usually the ones I've seen, at least, they focus more on the sensational, the comparisons to movies, obviously the violence and all of that. But there's very little of the politics and the context that was brought in this discussion. So I think it would be great if we could involve women and men like the two we just hosted today, and who have that experience, but have a different way of addressing it in the public sphere. I think that would be
right.
Very, very, very valuable.
So I will quickly. So two things. One, during EYL yesterday, someone asked me what I thought about Ole's, I guess she went quiet on Twitter. I'm not really sure what happened. I've shut down my previously like me account on Twitter. So I want to caution people, because for me, this is not, I have full respect for Ole, and I think her work as a public defender and her work with trying to fight, with what happened, what's going on with Rikers, like all of that work should be absolutely elevated. That said, I think people should always be cautious about having really high expectations of people in all arenas just because they're really good in something specific, right? Like Ole, I think at the start of some of her commentary about elections was very clear. She does not vote. She cannot vote. She gives information based on her own perspective. And I think like with her and with anybody, you should always go into any of these things understanding who you're watching, right? So if you're going to watch one of her shows with the expectation that she's going to give you some like revolutionary feedback on elections, then you're going into it with the wrong with the wrong expectation, right? So, take people, and that includes us, right? Like take all people as people who come to the table and come to YouTube with their own perspective and their own points of views and their own lived experiences, and take from it what you can take from it, but feel free to disregard what is not useful for your own ideology, for your own work, for your own, you know what I'm saying? Like that, I don't want to get into a whole like, is what she's doing and this, and I just don't care about that, right? Like I'm not going to her for a perspective on who I should be voting for in 2024. I made that decision based on where I go, who I engage with, what I read, what I watch, what I learn. And that's what everybody should be doing. So as I say that, and I started that way on purpose, because I don't know if you noticed the little switch up in my
in your avatar there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you notice the little switch
I
up?
noticed it.
So
your little politically out of the closet statement.
So last night I sent you the picture. I rolled out because our girl Claudia de la Cruz sent me a note. She was like, I'm gonna be in Jersey. Can you come out? So I went out and I went to her. She did PSL New Jersey, who I have told them, please reach out. We're going to have them come on at some point if we can get it scheduled. They hosted her. She spoke for a long time. Not a long time, but, Claudia should be going off the riff. I've never seen anybody put a speech together so well without like notes. It's amazing.
It's a skill.
It's
a
amazing.
skill, and she's
she's amazing.
Good.
Yep. And so I am, every time I listen to Claudia talk, I am reminded why voices like hers are so important in this moment, right? Like the clarity and the truth, and just like yeah. So I'm picking a side. I've decided. I'm still a Green Party. I'm not leaving the Green Party. I'm still heavily invested in the Green 13. We'll also try and have them come on at some point so we could talk about like how we managed to do this down ballot in the state thing, because I think it's important for organizational purposes to figure out like, how do we do this, right? How do you work on doing something within your system so that you can get stuff done? But
so
I've picked a side.
Can I just say very quickly that just to the 2 points you raised here. One, I think that when it comes to people like Ole and popular, more liberal than we are type public intellectuals, pundits, etc. First of all, just in general, I think everybody needs to chill with how we do our criticism and do and myself included, because I get guilty of this myself. Less ad hominem, more focus on the politics and the arguments, and more willingness to just disagree and be disagreed with. Not everything should be, well, they disagreed with me, so I can never talk to them again. They disagreed with me on this issue, so we're not cool anymore. And I'm not going to reference their work. I'm not going to support them, et cetera, and so forth. If there's a principal disagreement, for instance, on the issue of voting, where we are on certain politics, I don't see why there can't just be disagreement and we move on. There's too much of a quickness of, if we're not 100% on board, or if you've said anything publicly critical of anything that I've done, then we just can't rock together anymore. And I just think that's whack. There's the other part of and so I think that people should be less caustic in their criticism of public intellectuals. And then I also think public intellectuals need to be more genuine in terms of how they receive that criticism. So if you are a public intellectual, if your life is public and you take public positions politically, you should be willing to be criticized. You should be willing, and I always think, to engage people on your left. And if it's not some ad hominem nonsense, it should be all fair play and accepted. One thing. This other thing with the vote, I just want to say, as myself, a member of the Green Party, staying in the member of the Green Party, I'm going to vote for Andy Ellis, as for example, for governor here in Maryland and all of that. But I am going to vote for Claudia and Karina, and as well. And I would want, as a member of the Green Party, for the Green Party to take stock of why the PSL is so appealing as a campaign. And if for no other reason, even before we get to any political differences, just not waiting to the last minute and then chasing people who are not within the party with some bigger name or some celebrity status. The Green Party should focus on building from within, cultivating candidates, training candidates, preparing candidates, and developing people who could attract an audience, attract voters, build the party, and have a sort of a long form plan as the PSL does for their own perspective. Okay,
agreed.
That's my
agreed
cents on all of that.
So thank you. I mean, look, we in the same place, and so I'm good. I'm content with my decision. I am, I can't even, I've been in the room with Claudia before, obviously, and we've had her on and all these things, but there was something about her and her little sandals, like at the front with her bottle of water at her feet. There's like 40 something people, maybe 50 people in the room, and she just riffed. I was like, yo, sis, what is happening right now? And she's just legit, man. She's legit. There's just nothing else for it. She's legit. And
beyond her, what I think is compelling is the party itself. It's what their goals are. And what they're trying to do beyond just an election cycle, which is what has become less appealing to me about my own Green Party. That I don't feel like there's that, and what I actually do like about what Andy Ellis is doing, this sort of long form, early, beginning early. There's no, and someone from within the Green Party. He's not looking to either be or find someone in Maryland who's just got a bigger name that he can attach himself. I mean, there's all kinds.
And I love Andy. We gotta have him back on too.
We do. Andy's, and I like his approach, his arguments, and all of that. And again, my point is also, as much as we like Claudia, and as much as we often hear, I know I hear all the time that Green Party candidates are corny, this, that, and the third. The point is supposed to not be just about the candidate. Remember, the candidate in any party is a representative of the party's founders, founders. And it's behind the scenes sort of developers, that is, who develop the strategy, who are the grassroots people building the party. That's who they're supposed to be an emanation of. So this idea that I'm only going to vote for this person as opposed to the party is, I think, another flaw with all of these approaches, and why we get caught up in so much, even right now, with let's all fall in line. Did you see Lupita, my bad, forgive me, Lupita Nyong'o's as she said, expression of her electoral virginity.
Oh no!
Did you hear that? You meant
No, I missed that.
if I can find it real quick, we should watch because it perfectly makes this point that she's saying, I am for the first time able to vote, and I'm so happy that my virginal elect. She kept she made the reference to it. It's very uncomfortable, but she's saying, yeah, she's saying that her first ever vote, she's so happy to get to do it for a Black woman.
Oh Lord.
And again, it's not policy, it's not party, it's not ideas, it's something specific to a candidate that is itself not attached to anything really, I think, meaningful enough, at least. But
right. Well, this
anyway,
this is a perfect segue, in my opinion, because we have multiple things now to move forward from at this point. So why don't we start with, actually, because I think this is the one that I'm like, how did this happen? So the Kamala and Palestine line, number 9.
All right.
The article
wait 1 second. Do you mind if I think I thought I found it. Wait a second. It said the link. My bad. I did want to but the link is not working. Hold on. It's not the link that they said it was. But my bad. Let me just get to what you yeah, she's got, here it is. I got it.
Okay,
here it is. Yeah, she says, and this, look at it's even in the tag here on her. Anyway, I found it on X, on Twitter. Oh no, now here we go. Did it go over? Okay, wait a minute. My bad. The links are moving all over the place. Here we go. Here it is. This is it right here.
I have never voted, not because I haven't wanted to, but because I've never been eligible. I've been in the wrong country at the wrong time, but this year marks the first time that I'm going to be able to vote. And I can't believe I get to vote for a Black woman! I know I'm not the only virgin voter out there, so let's make ourselves know.
All right, there you go. That's enough, but you get the point. Not the only virgin voter, so make yourself, heard. And by the way, that is coming from the spokeswoman for De Beers Diamond Mines. So, you're going to listen to anybody.
Doesn't it all say, like, I can't, I just can't. So Mondoweiss did a great article interviewing and talking about the uncommitted movement and how this is all playing out. And part of the reason that I thought this was important to pull up is because James Zogby has the perspective of, we're getting more than we got. So things are definitely moving in the right direction and we just have to keep fighting, right? This is the perspective based on what that's my very broad overview of all that he said, right? And my opinion on this, and I don't know, I would love to have a conversation with some of these people because I think they're delusional. Right. And I say that with as much love and sincerity, and it's not meant to be disrespectful. My concern is I feel like people see these broad statements of, oh, this is horrible what's happening, as that's better. Right. But if you can see something that is horrible, but still support it happening, to me, that's not a step up, right? Like, that's not an improvement on the situation. And so the clip next to that is from Democracy Now! And I think I've learned how to cue it up so that you don't have to find the starting time marker, I think.
Oh, wow. It looks like you did, yeah.
And so And we're only going to listen to like, and you can put it on fast speed because I can't stand this woman's voice. But it's what happened on CNN, and then she speaks to someone about how absurd her answer is. But we're not even going to watch all of that. But I want people to listen to how Kamala Harris answers this question, and then people can sit with themselves and understand why I say you have to be delusional to listen to this woman speak and think that this is a step up in anything.
Successfully to end the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. He's been doing it for months and months, along with you. Would you do anything differently? For example, would you withhold some U.S. weapons shipments to Israel? That's what a lot of people on the progressive left want you to do.
Let me be very clear. I'm unequivocal and unwavering in my commitment to Israel's defense and its ability to defend itself. And that's not going to change. But let's take a step back. October 7, 1,200 people were massacred. Many young people who were simply attending a music festival. Women were horribly raped. As I said then, I say today, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. And we have got to get a deal done. We were in Doha. Mm-hmm. We have to get a deal done. This war must end. In the meantime, and we must get a deal that is about getting the hostages out. I've met with the families of the American hostages. Let's get the hostages out. Let's get the ceasefire done.
But no change in policy in terms of arms and so forth.
No, we have to get a deal done. Dana, we have to get a deal done. When you look at the significance of this to the families, to the people who are living in that region, a deal is not only the right thing to do to end this war, but will unlock so much of what must happen next. I remain committed, since I've been on October 8th, to what we must do to work toward a two-state solution, where Israel is secure and in equal measure, the Palestinians have security and self-determination and dignity. That's...
Wow.
Listen, her own words. So I want.
And I thought the rape part had been disproven.
Oh, it's been disproven.
What is, so they're still running that baseline narrative, 1,200 massacred, the innocent kids at the festival and then rape.
Harris hosted a screening of that documentary made by the Zionists that was claimed, like this major claim about that lie. She hosted a screening to watch that documentary like 2 months ago. They had been discredited that story. None of these people are talking about what's happening to the Palestinians, which is on camera and verifiable. She's talking about the people at the, you know, that whatever the fair or the whatever thing that was happening where the young people, and
the festival, right?
The festival. And this is not to dismiss the deaths at the festival. I do not dismiss death, right? There is no death, in my opinion, that's like acceptable. However, are we just going to act like they didn't verify that the IDF was also shooting at those young people?
Well, we also can't forget, like Electronic Intifada and others have pointed out, those young people are also part of the military. They're not, they're all soldiers themselves. So I'm with you. We can all feel how we feel about violence of any kind and death and all of that. But the reality is this first of all, to expect Hamas or whoever is in this position to have these perfectly tactical strikes against military installations.
But not only that, but it was also proven that Hamas didn't even know that festival was happening.
Right.
That was not part of the plan. Right. So there are all these factors, and here she is on CNN retelling these lies, right? And saying unequivocally, like, you know, oh, I'm sorry, these people are killed, but we're going to keep supporting.
We need a deal.
We need a deal, right? I mean, people have to, you know, listen, you can sit with that and you can take from it and you can decide in your own brain that, like, you feel like, you know, it's still better than getting Trump back. But like, y'all, people are wilding with this.
I think people just have to be honest that when it comes to why they're going to vote for Harris over Trump, it has nothing to do with genocide in Palestine. that it has to do with their preference for a Black woman, for whatever slight differences she and her party are going to offer in terms of domestic policy, something around promises around reproductive rights or LGBTQ or some other vague promise is what they're going to have to acknowledge that they're doing. No one can, the people that I've been critical of, that I want to keep calling them out, they're going to have to stop saying I'm voting for Kamala because I want, this is going to have some effect on the genocide. They just have to accept that they're cool with the genocide and they just want something better for themselves here domestically, and stop fronting. And then you know,
we can be done with it. And yes, you are correct. The framing of the question was wildly insane.
Right. Well,
wildly insane. So,
although I was impressed that she came back and said, and she, the CNN reporter said, "Are you going to do? Is it so nothing about policy?" I have to admit, I was like, "Whoa, okay, all right, but okay."
Yeah. So this is the perfect now. So now we can go to the abandoned Harris clip, because I think that's important, because we need now
from breakthrough, right? Yeah.
So we need now to see on the other end, because there are still, and I'm so glad that you sent this to me, because I did not realize that the abandoned Harris, by, you know, previously abandoned Biden, now abandoned Harris movement was like a whole separate movement. I thought it was a part of the I didn't know.
No, shout out to Breakthrough News, and to the question we're going to hear. Please, I'll put the link to this also in the show description if you haven't seen it. The whole discussion is really important, but just this one clip where Rania Khalek asks this very important next question, and then the answer, which I think is just delicious. So real quick here,
because this is a question that I'm sure you get often. Because this is pretty much the line of defense when it comes to how Democrats respond to the idea of how, not voting for Kamala Harris, is how do you respond to the whole, well, you're basically getting Trump elected by doing this, which I think is a really insidious attack line, but nonetheless, it's one that we hear a lot. So how do you respond to that line of you are helping get Trump elected, and as a result, things are just going to turn out worse for Palestinians than they already are?
And the former president prevented our family and friends and colleagues from entering America, but the vice president killed them. Madam Vice President, you killed our people. You killed human beings. If it were the case that you committed some act that we could actually negotiate with, for example, you didn't pursue a specific policy that we have disagreements about on taxes, or on some policy question about the degree and relative importance of infrastructure in particular states, well, those are technicalities, we could differ. But when you come to the value of life, this is a message to all Americans, there is no compromise. There are things we should never compromise on, because otherwise we're all unsafe. We need to have a nation and a planet that's safe. And so what we say is, when you commit genocide, our only option is to send a clear signal that it's intolerable. And so the president, and now the former president that you refer to, out abandoned Biden and now abandoned Harris, we say 4 years under any Republican is incomparable to 1 day in Gaza. That we understand fully that this struggle continues, but that we must, in our first step, punish genocide here on November 5th, and then continue with our fellow Americans all across the planet and here in the United States in the struggle against Trump. We believe all the two candidates at the top of the ticket here, Mr. Trump and the vice president, who really represent a single ticket, are despicable candidates. An oligopoly, a bargain, that when people say you'll bring the other, curious how they say that. They seem to describe the reality of a difference without a distinction when it comes to genocide. We will fight them all, and our first step is those who began the genocide for us to send a clear signal. And maybe I should share a personal story. I was imprisoned and tortured in Jerusalem when doing research on the occupation with youth. And in prison, I still recall the feeling of utter loneliness, the clanking through the 2 metallic doors, my heart rate increasing, not knowing what will happen. The interrogation, why did you come here? Because we put a message on YouTube in Arabic calling for the liberation of Palestine. And we had all these youth, and they would tell us, Amran here, one of the youth with us is behind these doors, and Sheikh Sami's behind these doors to humiliate me. One person said that they put bleach on themselves every night because they talk to scum like me. I was utterly destroyed internally. And all I wanted was for people to speak for me. I dreamed a dream that in America, people were calling for my release. And when I finally came back, my second trauma, unparalleled, the trauma of loneliness. No one knew about my story. The American government didn't try to seek my release. And so what we are doing here, if history writes that this happened, that people of conscience, despite the sacrifice of only 4 years, where we survived the former president, but that we came out for a people innocent who will suffer bombings that will continue after the election of the vice president, that we came out and ensured that she was defeated, and it will be written that was because of the genocide, and that people did it in spite of the fact that they knew and they hated the other option. So this is a moment of glory and courage, a moment, a destiny, November 5th, for all of history, for people to know that even when it came to sacrificing, Trump is a sacrifice, no doubt, a despicable candidate, a man who will rule with impunity, but with constraints within America because of our Supreme Court and our Congress. He will never bomb us and maim us and destroy us in the way that Netanyahu, with the support of the vice president, is doing currently in Gaza and now today in the last few days in the West Bank. The genocide is spreading because people believe around the world that they can get away with it. And so, my fellow Americans, do not be deceived by the rhetoric, the doublespeak that tells you there's a lesser evil when it comes to genocide. And go out for the people who are voiceless. When I was in prison in this mock justice, I met one of the youth.
I'm going to stop it there.
Now listen, that's called my boy. You know nothing about that.
Please check the show description for the whole interview. But that, to me, Renee, is the best answer I've heard as to why we can't do this lesser evil.
And he had two. There were two. I mean, I got to figure out. Maybe I'll make like a little graphic or something. The first was him saying that the previous president kept us out, but the current vice president killed us. Right. The second was 4 years under the Republicans do not compare to 1 day in Gaza.
That's right.
That's
right. And that's right. And I think the unfortunate other parallel to our first set of guests is this thread of incarceration.
That was No, go.
No, just the fear, because I can't help but have thought this way myself. That the greater, perhaps only the greater fear to being captured and incarcerated is that no one is thinking about you, talking about you, fighting for you, and worse, as we were talking about with the first set of guests. And he's making a point in this clip here, and even worse is that the popular projection of your experience is misrepresented. Right. If told at all. So,
right.
I mean, yeah. So the link to that is also in the show description now to that whole segment. But
and that was a great full interview. I sat and watched the entire thing, and then I watched it again because I made my mother watch it. So thank you.
And I'm going to watch it again too because I need to get that line. I need to have that line. I need to have it down pat. Yep. That 4 years again, when Trump got elected the first time, I think immediately Daruba and I did an interview where Daruba said his whole line was don't get scared, get organized. Like the whole thing was, oh my God, a fascist has been elected. We're all terrified now. And his whole point was no. And I get that same energy from this guy. He's saying we already survived 4 years of Trump. Stop acting like this can't happen. Meanwhile, this current administration is doing even worse. And then and promising somehow that they'll be better than the other guy. So I just like that whole, we need to punish them. You can't be rewarded for conducting a genocide simply because you can point to somebody else and say that they're somehow going to be worse, even though while they were already there, they weren't worse. Right. So
right. And the only thing that I would change in that statement is the next 4 years, no matter who's in the White House, will not be comparable to 1 day in Gaza. Like, that's my honest opinion. Because there is no, there is no comparison to genocide. And whether we're talking genocide in Gaza, whether we're talking genocide in the Congo, whether we're talking about what's happening in Haiti, like all of these places where imperialism and greed and capitalism and US empire are rolling through and destroying the people and destroying the land and increasing their military bases and doing dumb shit like forcing a ceasefire so you can give polio vaccines. What are we talking about right now? So you're going to vaccinate, and I don't know who's going to trust them to. I wouldn't trust these people to do anything to my children, but so we're going to stop to do that so that you can bomb them after? What is, I don't even understand what this conversation is about that's happening right now. But because
No.
I don't want us to run out of time. So real quick,
Brandon Harris. Yeah.
Do you see the what the F is this line? Because I had this on the Geechee run sheet last
I
week.
do. Yes.
And
yes.
and we didn't have time, and I was having all those technical difficulties. But before we go to my spreadsheet and my article, I just want people to understand that this is what you're standing with when you decide you're gonna stand with Harris. Right? So
I went to a Zionist Democrats party, the DNC. What I saw made me think there's a policy shift coming. Oh, okay.
So this was the wildest. So the article, I don't really know why he titled it this, because I don't know what policy shift he was actually talking about. But he breaks down the people that he saw at this party. And the party was hosted by I think it's a leg of AIPAC called Zionists.
The Zionist Action Fund, an unabashedly progressive, unapologetically Zionist, excitedly pro-Kamala and pro-Democrats, political arm of the pro-Israel nonprofit. Wow.
No words,
wow.
yo. No words. No words.
Yeah, that's progressive and Zionist. That's a hell of a claim.
Yeah.
Oh, look, it's Debbie Wasserman Schultz again.
There she is again. Always. And she won that primary too. Shout out to
and Cory Booker.
Shout out to Jen Perlman who was trying. She tried.
Oh wow, Zionist as fuck. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I saw this and my jaw dropped, and I was like, we are really living in a hellscape. We're living in a hellscape. And it's just...
Meanwhile, AIPAC had endorsed in 2022 109 of the 147 Republican members of Congress. That's who's backing your Black woman excellence next president. Good gracious.
Your candidate who sat on TV and said that she really wanted to get a Republican in her cabinet.
She sure did. And
that she's not going to stop fracking because they can do all the work without.
I forgot about that one. That's right. That was the other policy she's not changing. And then everybody
always
wanted to reach across the aisle, Renee.
Right, always. And then they're gonna go back to trying to lift children out of poverty because they're gonna reinstitute the credit, the child tax.
The child tax.
We've already discussed is a credit, people. It's a credit.
Which means you are in debt.
Exactly. They're gonna take it back. And then I listened to what she said next, and if I didn't listen to it twice, I would have missed it. They're upping it for the first year of your child's life. So if your children are already beyond a year old, you're not getting that extra credit, FYI. And no matter how old your children are, you still gonna have to give it back when you do your taxes. Just saying.
Wow.
Just saying. So, these are all things that, yeah.
It only matters if you actually have a policy reason for supporting someone. If they're just not the other guy, then
it's wild. It's wild. So, I do want the chat to know, and the audience watching to know, and whoever watches in the future to know that I have officially invited young Diallo to come on.
Oh boy.
But he's not good with email, so I don't even know if he's gonna watch it and see it. But what you all talked about on EYL yesterday really struck me. And we have continuous conversations about why people should not be, why they should not fall for the Democratic lines and the media nonsense. And we don't talk a whole lot about, we talk about it some, the right and Trump and Project 2025. We've covered these things, but not nearly as extensively as we talk about. And I think for me, the reason is I feel like the Democrats are more, almost not, I don't want to say more dangerous, but I feel like falling for the Democratic line is something that happens more. Like, people are already like, oh, the Republicans suck, Trump sucks, we don't want Trump, we don't want, like, that's part of the problem, right? Because everyone's so focused on saying they don't want that thing that they're grasping onto something that is not better, right? But we don't delve into it. And we've now, I know you don't read the messages a whole lot, but every time we have these conversations, there's someone who goes on to say that they think Diallo would check me for not taking Project 2025 and the right seriously. And it's not that I don't take them seriously. It's more that I just don't see the purpose in taking them so seriously that we continue to side, like, to go along with the nonsense we're already living with. It's not that I don't think the people behind Project 2025 are dangerous, but they've been dangerous for decades, right? And they've been, almost all of them have been in the mix for decades. So for me, I can't be any more afraid of them for what they could do in the future than I am of them right now for what they're currently participating in. So I think people might misunderstand that it's not that I don't take, I definitely understand people saying, like, everything could always get worse, but things can also get worse under the Democrats, because we've already seen that happen. We're living that right now. And I think this misconception and misunderstanding that things can only get worse if it's the Republicans, that's where I have the problem, because things can get worse no matter who's there, because neither one of them are actually working for us. And so
my thing would be then vote for Claudia and Karina for the president. And then if folks are really that worried in this, what is more or less Diallo's position on this, then vote for the Democratic Party in all your congressional and down ballot tickets. Because if we are the cause for a Trump victory by not voting for Kamala, he will still have to, as the abandoned Harris spokesperson was just heard saying, he would still have to contend with, at least theoretically, your preferred Democratic Party representatives in Congress and the Senate, who would, of course, be there to put all the brakes and the blockages on whatever Trump is there to do. So we should be good. We should be good.
Because at the least,
that's your argument.
Right. At the least, people complained about the things that Trump was doing. They stopped complaining about those same things when Biden was doing them. So, like, all of a sudden the wall stopped being a problem. And all of a sudden, jailing people at the border stopped being a problem, and giving more money to cops stopped being a problem. Like, all these things.
Who just reminded us of that Kamala, they were saying, of course, Kamala is ready to deal with immigration. She was the Attorney General of California.
Right. Which she spoke about on CNN.
Maybe she was the one that said that. Yeah.
And she spoke of it from the perspective of being a prosecutor.
That's right. That's what that was the point, that whether I'm remembering that or whoever was speaking on her behalf, the point was not that she's got a friendly ear to the immigrant, but that she knows how to deal with them as the top cop and prosecutor of California, where obviously everyone knows all the Mexicans are just, streaming across the border.
Right.
To, as Mallory Archer said, come over here and how did she put it? Smoke, do all the drugs and smoke all the jobs, or something like that.
Lord,
she said.
mercy.
But but only a satirical arch enemy could make the point any better. And that's what she was basically trying to say. I'm here for that. I'm here to protect you from all the illegals coming over here, smoking all the drugs and smoking the jobs and dropping the drugs or something like that.
Wow. How did I miss that? This is so on point though, because MAL does
Mal,
actually
that's right.
mean that.
And in fact,
Good job, David.
That's right. He's punning in multiple languages. But it's because when you when you want to describe someone who's been having a life of often drug addiction or have some sort of struggle, you would say they're living a la mala vida. So they're living the bad life. So mala is exactly right. She is bad. She's a bad cop.
Brutal.
As if there were good ones,
right.
As Wise Intelligent asked, show me one.
Right.
If there's a good one, show me one. So,
all right. So people on Discord asked me to better break down my spreadsheet because we did not, between all my drama last week and just in general, it's a lot of information. So it is difficult to break down in, on the show. And so, because I'm me and I can't just do anything in let me just quickly write out like what I said on the show, normal type of way, I fell back down my Kamala Harris and advisors hole, which is deep and filled with many, many spider webs and confusion. And so because
the links in the show description, just let them know the links in the show description so they should avail themselves.
So this is going to end up being a multi-part thing because it was too much. It's going to be too much to try and do in one sitting, too much to try and do in one write-up. So we're just going to go all in and I'm just going to do it in pieces. So I started with the graphic that was provided on the New York Times. And if folks remember, there was some circles without faces. There were names that weren't in the graphic, etc. And so I fixed that. I fixed it, y'all. So now the graphic includes a face for every person that is named and includes the names and faces for people who were mentioned in the article and who I also found further connections to as I was doing the research on the people that were in the article. This is my life, Jared. Like I can't do nothing normal. Like who does this? Who does this? So that click for the here where it says found here above the part 1 is the link to the full spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet is accessible and people can feel free to go through it. I started with precision strategies because when I started to really dig into who precision strategies is and who their connections are, I just felt like this was a good starting space, mostly because Harris's campaign manager, who is O'Malley Dillon, started this company. She started this firm along with Stephanie Cutter, who is the person who ran the convention, and also with the person who was the digital person for the Obama for America campaign. Now, to my knowledge, he's not still involved. However, David Plouffe, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, that's a guess. David Plouffe is an attorney and he now works for Precision Strategies. So the three of them all work for they're all associated with the same firm and are working with Kamala Harris. So I felt like that was enough of a connection to dig a little deeper on this firm itself.
He was also an advisor to Binance.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And so he joined Kamala's campaign. It was announced in one spot as her sort of blockchain czar. And Binance, of course, is the biggest exchange in the world for your cryptocurrencies. So I just think that's just more shady Ponzi scheming going on, but yeah, just one more little additional tidbit.
So,
and do you want to say a word or two about Precision Strategies, just real quick, like what?
So Precision Strategies is a marketing firm, and their job is, they're fixers and they're promoters and they market stuff, and that's what they do. So the Obama thing is important because I feel like the reason Precision Strategies got to be as big as it did and became this like it's a beast in this marketing sphere is because those three all worked for Obama. Now, the whole working for Obama thing is not unusual because all of those faces you see are all people who were associated with Obama who are now working with Harris. So every time I do one of these articles, I'll do this where only the faces who are associated with the thing that I'm talking about show. Right.
And Precision Strategies claim credit for, it's not only that they were, but they also claim credit. If I think you wrote this, but they claim credit for Obama's victories, right?
Right. So what happens
one of
is,
them at least, yeah.
Well, what happens is as they get promoted as, this major marketing firm that everyone has to work with, it is because they are seen as the team that got Obama to win. They are the team. They were the team behind the Obama win. And since they were the team behind the Obama win, you got to go with them. So they've gotten all kinds of awards. If you can look them up. The links are
they got PR. They won PR company marketing of the year in 2020, which was perfect because in 2008 Obama was brand of the year. So it's like a perfect continuum of that logic of elections.
But when you dig a little deeper into the firm itself, I discovered a few things that I felt like were okay. Like, are we sure that this is what we want to get excited about? So one of the awards that they got, part of the reason they got it was because of the campaign they ran on behalf of the Coalition of Public Safety. So we already know the minute you see the words public safety, you should question, because this is something that everyone who is trying to sell you policing as a good thing.
Message.
This is the term that they use, right, to cover over what they're actually doing. So, the minute I saw
it's the hop and bob warning.
Right. So the minute I saw public safety, I was like, oh Lord, here we go. So I looked up the organization. It's now the Justice Action Network. The Justice Action Network, which is just as bad, touts itself as the largest bipartisan organization dedicated to criminal justice reform. The largest bipartisan organization dedicated to criminal justice reform.
It's going to reach across the aisle.
It's going to reach across the aisle. And they got a whole policy agenda that writes up how useless they're going to be. Okay, because whenever you start talking about bipartisan, public safety, criminal justice reform, we all know it's going to be useless. Okay. The other thing is their list of clients is wild. It's wild. Okay. So you've got all these, you got the NFL and YouTube, Bank of America, Humana, all these people. And then you have all these political clients, including the Republican Party in Wisconsin, which actually made my eyes roll. And it's a small amount that they were paid. So I'm sure it was just one meeting or whatever, but they entertained it. Right? They entertained whatever it was, but they represented Tim Scott in some way because he paid them thousands. Ricky Torres, Mr. Zionist himself, right? Like all these things. And then Emily's list is one of their repeating clients because they're on that list multiple times. And the link to that political clients is to their open secrets page. You can go through it yourself. But currently, Emily's list has Maya Harris, who is Kamala's sister, on their board. And she's on leave because she's working for the Kamala Harris campaign. They also used to employ LaFonza Butler, who is also an advisor for Harris. And she was there, I think it was her, she was the ED. right? She was the executive director.
Mm.
And she stepped down because she got put into place when they rolled that poor woman out and she died in Congress. That's who they elevated to replace her. So all of these people are working together behind the scenes, right? The next thing that blew my mind that I found, and I just came across this strategic investment by RB Partners. And strategic investments are not, they're not unusual whenever you're looking in the business world. Everybody's always looking for money from somewhere. But RB Partners lists all their businesses, who they give money to, who they strategically invest in, right? And so, because I'm me, I went through every single company that was on the list to see who are these people that they're giving money to. And I found government and state agencies. I found cloud services. I found a surveillance firm, security services, and I found an Israeli-based cloud technology service. So this is who Precision is in bed with based on where they're getting their money from. So this is the firm. This is the general. This is the general, right? So now when we go to the people, we've got O'Malley Dillon, who is still the campaign manager, who worked for Biden, who, by the way, was like, Biden's not leaving the campaign. He's holding strong. And then now she's working for Harris. So we can leave that where it is. But she made almost $500,000 when she left Precision, because obviously she was bringing in big bucks because she was representing Gates Ventures, Chan Zuckerberg, Lyft, General Electric. These were her clients, right? But if you go back into her history in 2021, there was this whole thing about how she sent this email to Facebook because of the misinformation and blah, 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 blah. And nobody mentioned that she used to be the representative on the marketing side for Mark Zuckerberg's initiative. So she can send whatever she wants. And she can send it to the press and she can pretend like she was doing something and she was saying something. But that's her boy, because she was working with his company on the marketing end.
Wow.
Stephanie Cutter, who used to be on CNN's Crossfire with Van Jones, which I had to put in because I was just like, Lord, oh Lord, Mr. AI is reparations. Stop. But her clients, yes, her clients, when you look at, and this is all, it is so shadily done. So I can't say with 100% certainty that this is the link. But when you look at it, it just makes sense, right? Like she gets invited to do speaks, right? So she goes to these places and she talks about her work and blah, blah, blah. So what she does is they write up a thing. And they say this, she's been heralded by Politico and she's this and she's a major voice and blah, 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 blah. And then they talk about what she did in the marketing side. So they talk about her working for insurance company mergers. They talk about her healing the reputation of a financial institution, of a news network, of an NFL quarterback, of a consumer tech company. And so I was trying to figure out like, okay, well, who? But you can't, I'll be honest, like I had a hard time and I'm not, maybe if I looked at it a different way, I could find it. So then I decided, okay, well, let's start looking at the problems because we're talking about a company that started in 2013, right? So then I started looking for headlines. And in 2017, you had an entire push because Humana and Pfizer were trying to merge. Both Humana and Pfizer are clients of Precision. So she was working on, my guess is she was working on one side or both of that merger, right? When you talk about fixing the financial institution, in 2014, Bank of America had to pay a multi-billion-dollar settlement because they were defrauding their mortgage borrowers. So Bank of America is a confirmed client of Precision, right? So I'm just making connections. I can't say 100% she worked on these, but I think it's fair to make the assumption that she might have. Just saying. Just saying.
At minimum, they're all on the same team, and they're all
Exactly.
headed in the same direction, looking for the same goals. Which is why, again, this is not some break and some advance. It's
right. And she's
it
still,
is a bad
and let's
sequel.
be clear, Stephanie Cutter still works for Precision. She is still there. Her work with the DNC convention was as the co-founder and head of Precision Strategies. So she's still in bed with all of these people and working for the Democratic Party.
Wow.
Okay. Now, David Plouffe, who's the last one, apparently was behind the whole like Zuckerberg thing, the initiative that started. He still works for Obama, even though he got outed because he was using his Obama connections when he worked for Uber. Because, of course he worked for Uber. But he also seems to have like a real affinity with working with the Republicans, which again, one has to wonder what in the world is going on. So when he got named to work for the Zuckerberg-Chan initiative, he was working with this man, Ken Melman, who is a name I'd never heard of before. But I was like, well, who the hell is Ken Melman? Who is this dude? So that I looked it up. He works for this massive venture capitalist firm.
Yeah.
KKR.
They've actually come up. Yeah.
They hold billions, right? But he also worked for George W. Bush in 2004. He ran the RNC. And then this dude, David Plouffe, was doing a podcast with Kellyanne Conway.
Wow.
That he just stopped doing. Like, not like he was doing it years ago. He literally just stopped doing this because he decided to work with Kamala Harris. He just I think there's a podcast from like 2 weeks ago on the list. So these are the people who are behind the woman that everybody wants you to believe.
She doesn't have to reach across the aisle. She's already there.
They're already working together. It's all nepotism. It's all. Look,
and just this was announced earlier this month in Fortune that this is where I was looking at where Plouffe was a former ex Binance advisor. So it's the whole Clinton, Obama,
right,
George Bush,
right,
entourage.
I can't, like, we can't say it enough. These people are all working together and none of them are working for us. So we got to start asking better questions and we got to start having better conversations. And part two will come next week because there's another, and I hate to do it to you. I got to send you back to Netflix. I'll send you a text. Sorry, sorry, but not sorry.
Listen, everybody, big shout out and thanks to Renee. The links to everything that we've been talking about are already in the show description. So make sure you avail yourself of all of that as you like, share, subscribe, comment on this video, and use this video as political education for your friends, family, foes, and colleagues. And Renee, thanks again. And big shout out to our guests earlier.
Absolutely.
The links to their work are in the show description as well. I don't see the link, so I'm not sure what's happening with Warrior Class, but make sure you have the bell rung. Make sure you are subscribed. Again, the Patreon link is in the show description, as are links to all of everything. Renee.
Thank you, man.
Great job.
Appreciate you.
Great job.
See you next week.
Yeah, peace, everybody. As long as you're willing to fight for it, as Fred Hampton used to say, and we'll see you right back here next Saturday with more Saturday with Renee.